everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the harmful psychological effects of fat shaming, discrimination, and stigma in the South Asian community. Now I want to start talking about what is fat shaming. Fat shaming is the action or practice of humiliating someone judged to be fat or overweight by mocking and making critical comments about their size. A lot of us who have been overweight or struggled with a weight-related issue have been there. We often encounter dressing room scenarios like this. So I was going to upload a movie scene from a Tamil movie. So this is a common scene that occurs in many Tamil movies where a daughter is struggling to fit into a sari blouse hours before a large event. The mother yells at the daughter saying, "Oh, you must have gained like 2 kilograms overnight. If you keep going like this, you're not going to fit into your clothes. No one's going to marry you." Movies like this perpetuate the idea that making fun of someone's weight is largely acceptable. And in the South Asian community, it almost seems like those who are overweight or struggle with weight are seemingly unmarriable and less desirable. Now, research into eating disorders and body image show that the pressure to be thin and internalization of the thin body ideal may put individuals at risk for developing an eating disorder. Now, it's not just with South Asians, but individuals with various backgrounds often believe that fat shaming helps motivate overweight people to change their lifestyles and lose weight. In other words, bullying someone for how they look and then pretending like they're doing it because they care about your well-being and health. Now, research shows that the majority of people who fat shame others are slim and never had to struggle with a weight problem. Now, this is often different for individuals in the South Asian community. You often hear these comments come from aunties and uncles, and maybe even your own parents, who are seemingly ignorant to their own unhealthy lifestyle behaviors and weight. Now, this internalized weight bias was associated with increased body image concerns, dissociation, and food preoccupation. It was almost like food became an addictive substance. So, how does this happen? Exposure to weight-stigmatizing information and disproportionate treatment of those that are overweight to those that are normal to underweight made those that are overweight engage in behaviors that resulted them into eating more calories and feeling less in control of their food. Now, we all know that the only way to lose weight is to eat in a caloric deficit. Now, what happens to these individuals who encounter ongoing discrimination related to their weight? Well, studies show that the increase in caloric intake is attributed to stress eating patterns caused by fat shaming in overweight individuals, which overall causes these individuals to gain more weight. For those of you who don't know me, I myself have experienced fat shaming as a young child. Everywhere I turned, whether it be from my classmates at school, family circles, and my own parents, my subconscious picked up on the notion that the way I looked wasn't good enough. My subconscious picked up on the notion that the way I looked wasn't enough, that my value as a person was somehow insignificant because of the way I looked. I wasn't allowed to express my discomfort around how I felt when I was fat shamed, because my voice in those moments didn't matter. It wasn't until I went through my own weight loss journey that I experienced the other side of what it felt not to be fat shamed. In other words, to be socially accepted by a community that largely invalidated my existence as a human. Because I saw the other side of what it looked like, I didn't want to go back to feeling small. Now, this in itself caused disordered eating patterns, fat phobia, and consistent anxiety around weight and food for me personally. Some of the effects of these perceived weight-based discrimination and stigmatization include depression, lower levels of self-esteem, high levels of body dissatisfaction, poor psychological functioning, psychological distress, maladaptive coping such as binge eating and eating disorders, risk-taking behaviors and procrastination, difficulties with emotional regulation, and somatic symptoms. This highlights the fact that even the fear of experiencing fat phobia is in itself a stressor, whether or not weight stigma is actually occurring. Food is almost weaponized which has largely become true over the years. Because culturally, restriction and deprivation have been glamorized, fueling competitive eating standards such as competitions amongst those who can go the longest without eating. Ironically, it was found that weight stigmatization heightens the risk of obesity due to these obscenogenic pathways. Now, this is something I've personally experienced, but let's take a look at what the research says. Now, in one study, 8 women between the ages of 21 and 29 participated in a semi-structured interview. These women were identified as being second-generation South Asians, as well as having sought help for an eating disorder. Now, this study revealed that cultural tensions exist when balancing South Asian values with Canadian society, and this imbalance significantly influences identity and mental health. What they found is that it led to isolation, alienation, and self-dissatisfaction. And among other things, mental health is often silenced within South Asian cultures, making it difficult for adolescents to seek health and treatment. Another study examines sociocultural factors in the development of body image and eating concerns in South Asian Americans. Some of the eating disorders talked about in the study include anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorders. Anorexia nervosa is the refusal to maintain a normal body weight or above a minimally normal weight for a person's age and height. This includes an intense fear of gaining weight or even becoming fat, even though underweight. This leads to having a disturbed body image in which self-evaluation is based heavily on body weight and to be in denial about the low body weight. Bulimia nervosa is having an episode of binge eating where an individual eats an unusually large amount of food that is definitively larger than most people would eat during a small period of time. Now, these individuals lack a sense of control over eating during this period, i.e., feeling that they cannot stop eating even after they feel physically full. This is followed by periods of purging by engaging in self-induced vomiting, misuse of laxatives, diuretics, or enemas. Problem with these studies are that data on South Asian populations are largely limited, which can become difficult to attribute certain factors through cross-cultural variations. However, this study supports the notion that social problems in extended families, family distress, and cultural clashes attributed to disordered eating patterns. In another 12-month study of binge eating disorders of adult females in the United States, both binge eating and loss of control of eating occurs in children and is associated with an increased body fat, weight gain, and increase in psychological symptoms. Now, all of this begets the question, now what? We're left with this feeling of anger, pain of the very existence of these internalized weight hierarchies. Some interventions include actively challenging fat phobia, integrating a weight-inclusive approach to well-being, and teaching older generations of the stigma. However, no matter the size, the biggest issue with low self-esteem included this internalization of fat phobia. What you encounter with these individuals and what you do with these individuals is just to be supportive. I know in my weight loss journey, all I wanted was someone to support me along the way and someone to tell me it was going to be okay. And I think that's the most you can do. Give them support, but don't over-enforce your boundaries on what you think they should do. You can give supportive help without shaming them for the way they look now and using positive reinforcement to actually help them get the help that they need to overcome the issues that continue to plague our generation. And that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed.